I get asked about music rambles. I've done a few, but do another one now. I will obviously rehash stuff I've already talked about, but maybe I'll add some new stuff in. It's funny, I get asked about CD collections too. I was asked recently, and I said, I can add them in my next ramble when I get back home. I'll collect the ones that I still have. I probably have under 10. I gave a lot away when I thought we were going to be moving to Florida back in 2019. I gave a bunch to my friend at work, so I could just have them there. Maybe about like 15. I used to have a ton of CDs back in the day, but I started giving away. I don't listen to music like that. I mean, I listen to music still, but not like that. A lot of stuff I throw on YouTube and stuff like that. My listening habits are a lot different than they used to be. But I remember my first CDs that I actually owned were, I think I got them when I was like 5th or 6th grade for Christmas. Maybe it was 6th. I'm trying to think about like when they would have come out on CD. It could have been 5th. 5th was 89, 90, so it could have been, oh no, that would have been Christmas of 89. So it could have been 6th grade, Christmas of 90, I don't know. I do know. It was Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. It was Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, and Decadence. Unless I didn't get that one, because that one might have come out that could have come out in 90 or 91. And Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. I am not a big Motley Crue fan, but I do like maybe about 10 of their tunes. And now I'll watch videos occasionally of people who put fake words, like almost like a lip sync of Vince Neil when he's singing on stage, and it's just like incoherent random words. It's actually really funny. But and then I went from there. I still have one tape, and I the cassette tape. I used to have a lot of cassette tapes back in the day too. Even when I was getting CDs, I would still pick up tapes as well. But I remember, like 2000, I think, or no, it wasn't 2000. Sorry, it would have been like 98, 97, 98. Tower Records started to sell them for like cheap. And I got Facelift, Alice in Chains Facelift. I still have that somewhere. But I had like the Black Album and I think Master of Puppets. I had Clockwork Orange soundtrack. I had one or two Ministries. I want to say Faith No More, the real thing I had. I'm filming this at night, so when I was something, a frog or whatever it is just making noise periodically. You will hear noise of the things outside in the brush. But I ended up with a lot of CDs. And then over time, I either lost some. I took bad care of my CDs for a while. I don't even know why, because I never did it with my video games. I took pretty good care of my video games. I always put them back in the case. CDs, like, I wouldn't put them back in the case for some reason. They'd end up falling on the floor and getting scratched to shit. I don't know why. Like DVDs, movies, and video games, I would put right back in the case. But I did have a lot of CDs. A lot of Alice in Chains, Iron Maiden, Ministry, Metallica. I had some Primus CDs. I was into Primus back then when I was in high school. I'm talking about more high school and stuff. And then I got into them more later on. I did like them, but I really started to really, really like them later on. Got to see them with, I would have talked about this in a video. It was like a month before we left, a little more than a month before we left for North Carolina, but me and a couple friends, we went to Foxwoods, and it was Primus. It was Maynard's like 60th birthday celebration or some shit. And it was Primus, Pussifer, and Perfect Circle. It was a really good show. Pussifer was first. They would do it like Pussifer would come out, play a couple of tunes, Primus play a couple of tunes, Perfect Circle play a couple of tunes, and then they would keep alternating, and then they'd play tunes together. It was cool. It was a cool show. But they played at whatever the Foxwood Theater is called. Funny enough, I like Perfect Circle more than Tool. I've talked about that in one of my unpopular opinion videos. I'm not a fan of Tool. I'm not denying Tool's talent as a band. They're extremely talented. There's a couple of their songs that I really like. Like Undertow is a really cool song. I can't even remember the names of most of the other ones. But, there's another one. I don't know what it's called. Eulogy. I think it's called Eulogy. That's a really good one. But I could never get into them. Even back in like middle school, high school, I could never get into them. My friends love them, but I could not get into them. I had a lot of 311. Well, no, I didn't actually have a lot. I had a couple 311 CDs. This will be all over the place. The first concert I ever saw was Van Halen at Jones Beach in '95. So it was the summer of, I was just finished 10th grade. That was a really good show. I just distinctly remember my one friend. He's like, oh, I'm going to the bathroom. And he played guitar. I don't know, I haven't talked to, this is a friend I have not spoken to. And you know, after high school, kind of fade. I have my core friends that I've known since like, a few of my friends I've known since I was like 3 years old. When I moved into Massapequa, when I was 3, like I met a few of my friends that I'm still friends with to this day. And then other friends I met in like 6th, 7th grade and have known them since then. But he wanted to hear Eddie's solo, and he comes running up from the bathroom because Eddie Van Halen had just started. He's like, I knew it. When I went to the bathroom, he'd start doing it. They also did the bass solo. Michael Anthony did bass solo, and then Alex Van Halen did his drum solo. It was a good show. They didn't go nuts with the David Lee Roth stuff. They played more of the Sammy Hagar stuff because Sammy Hagar was the one in the band. I don't know from like a singing perspective, I prefer Sammy Hagar, but I feel like the music, and I know they kind of, on 1984, they kind of went into the synthesizers. Eddie started using the keyboards and whatever, so synthesizers, I guess, the keyboards and stuff. I mean, 1984 is a sick album. Freaking, obviously, Jump, Panama, Hot for Teacher, Top Jimmy, House of Pain. House of Pain and Girl Gone Bad are like such sick tunes that don't get talked about a lot for that album. I'll Wait. A couple other songs on there, I can't remember the names. But I like a lot of the, like, I think like the riffs were sicker on those earlier albums. You still get some really cool ones as well. It's just almost a different band, but both good. It's just, I like them. I'm not like a massive Van Halen fan, but I do like quite a bit of stuff. But that was a cool first concert to go to. And then the Eagles in Nassau Coliseum. That was the Hell Freezes Over tour because they got back together at tour. They made an album and had a couple of new tunes on it. It was Get Over It, and that was something else. That was cool because a lot of the guys like Don Henley, Joe Walsh, I don't know, it might not even be recently that he died. I can't remember his freaking name. But they all had pretty good solo careers as well. What is his name? Not Don Felder. He was a drummer, right? I gotta look at his name. Gotta put the Eagles because God knows if I put Eagles, the football team's gonna come up. Oh, I need to just know his name. It's annoying that I don't know it. Glenn Fry. They all like successful. They played their own tunes. That was a great show. That had an intermission. I played like 30 tunes. Really cool show. Those are the earlier ones. Steve Miller Band. guess like at the time I would have been in, when did I say, I was in 11th grade. And they had like college kids doing the security, and they were like nuts. I remember we was smoking a few times in the gym, and they were hanging out up in the bleacher type area. Because it was literally just in a gym. And they would come down, we almost got kicked out like 3 times, but they never actually kicked us out. I remember another friend from high school was there. And, well, we were still in high school. He's laughing, he's like, because he was just like, Steve Mills just playing like his greatest hits. He's like, I could have just sat at home, put on his greatest hits, and turned on a strobe light. 311 was an early concert. I saw that that was on the Transistor tour, I believe. Aerosmith I saw, that was 97, and Madison Square Garden, that was a good show. So Megadeth and Hammerstein Ballroom 98, that was a top 5 show for me. It was so good. That place is small, and those smaller arenas, not arenas, those smaller concert halls, whatever you want to call them, the sound just has nowhere to go, and the acoustics are usually good, so it's just like boom. So Jerry Cantrell and Roseland, that was a cool show because it was on Boggy Deep. I was first solo album. He pretty much played the whole album, and then he played like 5 or 6 Alice in Chains tunes. He did have Sean Kenny, the drummer of Alice in Chains, was in the band with him at the time, so he saw half Alice in Chains at that point. But that was a great show. I love Boggy Deep. I think that's a fantastic album. I really like that album a lot. I saw Metallica it was on the Reload tour, I think. It was Reload's second one, right? That was the Meadowlands. It is now whatever it's called, MetLife Stadium. That was a cool show. I saw Metallica again, which was really cool. My friends and I was in Roseland. They only played like 2 or 3 shows on this. It's when Garage Inc. came out with the covers. And they just played all covers, all their covers. They played all the bands they cover. The cover tunes, awesome show. And the band that opened just covered Metallica, which was cool. That was an awesome show. I remember I was pissed. I had a Planet Hollywood London. My aunt and grandma went over to England and Ireland, and they got me a Planet Hollywood. I'm pretty sure it was Planet Hollywood London. There definitely has to be a Planet Hollywood in London, right? I need to look this up. And I like that hat. Right as the show started, when Metallica came on, I jumped in the air and got like hit by like 2 different people. I was just like, whoosh, which normally I wouldn't do. My hat went flying. I looked down at the ground. I see it briefly, and then it's just gone. It just disappeared. I was pissed. That was a nice hat. I had to like not mention it to my aunt. I was like, no. It is in there, alright. Is it still there? No, it's permanently closed. It's in St. Albans house. It's funny how many, like, you look at, like, like, all states, New York, especially the northeastern states, they all just have names of towns in Britain because, obviously, the people came over from Britain. They were just like, fuck it, we're naming it what it was named over there. That was a fantastic show. That was awesome. Saw Maiden on Brave New World tour at the Garden. That was a really cool show. I never went to see them again, and I love Maiden. And, I'll still put them in a top 5 band for me. But man, and I've talked about this on video as well. Everything after Brave New World, I can't do it. I think it was Dance of Death came out after. Was it Dance of Death or A Matter of Life and Death? One of them. It came out of Brave New World. It was like the same thing. Like every album was the same thing. And now, on whatever the last album was called, I keep forgetting the name of it. Bruce is like trying to do his opera type singing, and he sounds exhausted. My friend used to put it on at work, and he's not even a huge fan of it. He'd do it to annoy me. And I cannot listen to this. Like, I start getting angry. I'm like, I can't listen to this. I can't do it. It's like, and the days of futures past. Like, it's like, dude, shut up. But everything up until Brave New World, outside of the 2, the albums that had Blaze Bayley on them singing because Bruce left briefly. Not bad albums, but not nearly as good as the others. The 2 first albums was it Paul Paul Dano's the actor. Paul Dano, that's his name, the original singer for Maiden. Killers and Iron Maiden, just Killers is a freaking top 3, probably Maiden album for me. It's a super like punkish album, just an awesome album. Iron Maiden, their first album, is good as well. Killers is incredible. It's probably Killers, Power Slave, and Somewhere in Time for me, the top 3. But they got a lot of good stuff. But after the Brave New World, I really liked. It's funny because that concert we went to, they opened the show with the first three songs off of Brave New World, which kind of ballsy, because I feel like a lot of people in the concert are like, play Power Slave shit, play stuff off of Peace of Mind, play stuff off of Number of the Beast. They're always squeezing Fear of the Dark in, though, at all. My friends have seen them a couple of times. They literally saw them on a show, because Maiden likes to play shows where they don't switch up their set list on a tour. It's pretty much the same thing every night, which is why part of the reason they're so tight as a band. But there was an album, the tour, where they were just playing songs off of like Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Number of the Beast, and like Somewhere in Time something. But they still, my friends, like they still squeezed in Fear of the Dark, which is obviously on Fear of the Dark, which is hilarious. They had to like squeeze it in there. But I'll always love Maiden. I would say they're pretty much almost their whole catalog. I think they have. It was Matter of Life and Death, Dance of Death, Final Frontier or something. Frontier some shit. And then that last album. I can't. It sounded so it's like the Brave New World era. So much of it sounds so the same. And not saying Maiden would go in like kind of spurts. Like the first two had their own style. Number of the Beast is also punkish. But then like Power Slave, Peace of Mind definitely have a similar vibe. Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son kind of have a similar vibe. Fear the Dark is kind of its own thing. So I guess they changed it up a decent amount. They always had that weird, like Steve Harris, the galloping type bass, which once you hear it in the song, it's like you cannot hear it. Sometimes it's annoying. He writes so much of this shit, he's probably like, screw it, I'm just throwing that thing in there, I don't care. It's funny I mentioned Reload before, because the tour. I like Load and Reload. Like, I remember back when the people were, I wasn't like super into Metallica. When the Black Album came out, I got into them. I had heard stuff on Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning, not really Kill 'Em All, and Justice for All. I would hear songs off that I knew the songs. Kill 'Em All I didn't really know though. But my friend's brother and his friends were super into them. So when the Black Album came out, a lot of hardcore fans were pissed. I think the Black Album's incredible. I always have. They were able to tap into pretty much that's still a metal album. It's rockish as well, but you're still getting like God That Failed, My Friend in Misery, Struggle Within. You're still getting Through the Never. You're still getting classic shit, and then you get Enter Sandman, and I think wherever I May Roam is just awesome. Sabatrue's awesome. It's a great shit kicking riff. Enter Sandman's played out. It's a great tune, but it's just played out. Then you have The Unforgiven, which is great. Nothing Else Matters for what it is. It's a good tune. What else is on it? Don't Tread on Me. But people gave it a lot of shit, and then Load came out, and people kind of were like, "Oh, Black Album's incredible. Load is complete." Now Load was a complete like what? A lot of people. There was a few people that actually like that I knew that were big fans that still loved it. At first, I was like, "What the fuck?" But I would listen to it, and I like a lot of songs on those albums. Hero of the Day I really like. Outlawed Dawn's really good. There's some stupid shit. Even Until Sleep. King Nothing is cool. Which one has The House of Jack? I forget. I don't know all the names of those tunes. Memory Remains. That's on Reload. Is not a good tune. They'd probably tell you as much. But they're rock. Those are like straight rock sounds. The funny thing is, like, if certain bands put that album out, you'd be like, holy shit, this is incredible. But certain bands, you expect so much that you're like, no. And then they did I Disappear, which I love, from Mission Impossible 2. Saint Anger, I like Saint Anger. The drums, distracting, annoying. But there's a lot of songs on the album I really like. And then from there, what was it? I like 72 Seasons. I like it better than Hardwired and Death Magnetic. Those albums are fine too. Nothing's gonna compare to the first four though. Like they're just on a musical level, they're incredible. Like, you know, and I'd actually say the first 5 albums because I love the Black Album. And stuff like Helmet, I love. Helmet's another one, like Page Hamilton, some of his riffs. I don't know if they have a new album coming out. Like Size Matters, because it was always Henry Bogdan, John Stanier, and Page Hamilton, and then they had Peter something, and there was another guy on rhythm. But it was always the 3 guys that you were like, oh, and they were sick. They were on Strap It On, Meantime, Betty, and Aftertaste, and then they have the Born Annoying like singles, whatever they call them. That came out in like '89. But the music, his lyrics were incredible. Size Matters. He had the people that helped record with him. He had the bassist. Is it Charlie? No. The bassist from Anthrax was in the band, but it's not Charlie Benedante is the drummer, right? Of Anthrax. Oh God. People are like, you idiot. But he was in the band, and he had somebody else known in there. Size Matters was still really good at a lot of riffs. Then there was, I think, Monochrome, which had some really cool tunes on it, but some weak stuff. And then there's like, I think Dead to the World, and there's one other one that has some decent tunes on as well. But those first four albums, it's like, holy shit, yeah. A lot of bands, like the new metal scene that came in, directly like influenced by Helmet, Faith No More. Faith No More is another top band for me. And not just the patent shit. The stuff with Chuck Mosley is great. Like the first album is We Care a Lot is solid, but not incredible. And they put We Care a Lot out again on Introduce Yourself is an awesome album. It's so good. Real Thing I really like, but I don't know. And then Angel Dust is masterpiece. King for a Day is incredible. I really like Album of the Year. Soul Invictus is solid too when they got back together. We saw them in Brooklyn when they got back together. It's a good show. But Ministry is another band I love. And I don't pay attention to some of this later. When he had Paul Barker in the band. And I forget the drummer has since died, but that's when Ministry was at its peak. It was like Al Joyce and Paul Barker, and he would have other kind of rotating musicians would come in as well. But man, like Filth Pig is like sludge metal, industrial. Psalm 69 or whatever they call that one is awesome. Mine Is a Terrible Thing to Taste and The Land of Rape and Honey are incredible. Twitch isn't bad. Even his first album where it was just him, where he's like, I did whatever the producers told me to, with Sympathy. I remember I was like, oh shit, I've never heard the first album. I got it from Tower Records. I put it in, I'm like, what the fuck? It's like dance music and stuff, but you can hear like subtle hints of what Ministry would be. But apparently those songs are played in the clubs constantly. But it is nothing like even Twitch was kind of like the gap where it still sounded a little bit like that original album, but it was starting to sound like that. And then Land of Rape and Honey is so good. You're just like, okay. This is incredible. Buckethead's a guy I knew of Buckethead and heard some of his stuff in the 90s, but I got into him into the 2000s. He's incredible. You see his shows. He's playing. He's giving out toys to people. People are giving him gifts. He's doing stuff with the nunchucks and shit. He's an incredible guitarist. He has a lot of good stuff too. He plays with Brian Mantia, whatever, who was in Primus on the Brown album and Antipop, and he's done other stuff as well. But he's awesome, and Buckethead's putting out albums constantly. Like, and then he had a band back in the day. They never put out an album. I think they eventually just put the album out in 2005 with Maximum Bob. Yeah, what's the drummer's name? I forgot. He had a weird name too. His Buckethead him. I forgot what they called the bassist. They had a couple different bassists. But man, the Deli Creeps album is, look it up on YouTube. Like, it's so incredible, dude. I think, and White Zombie, and like CKY. Those bands are like horror metal, right? It's a lot of horror themed shit in the lyrics and stuff. But this one's incredible, man. Flesh for the Beast, Random Killing, Can I Have a Ride? Boom Chaka. What else is on there? Found Body. That's like the Melhors. CKY is another band that's really sick. Like another one that had with Darron Miller when he was in the band. Like just sick riffs. He has a good voice too. He bad breakup. He leaves. He has his own stuff which sounds like CKY. And then they made an album without him. That's actually pretty good. It's not as good as the others. I saw them without him in Amityville, and it was a good show. The guitarist, was it Chad I. Ginsberg, is the one that sings now. And Jess Margera is on the drums, Bam's brother. That's how they got a lot of popularity, because their music would be in Viva la Bam and like Jackass and stuff. But they got some great riffs, but they're also very horror metal, a lot of horror themed lyrics and stuff. It just has kind of a horror vibe, like White Zombie, Rob Zombie, and stuff. You know, I remember loving STP back in the day, and I talk about here's another one. I talk about the Seattle scene, like bands there. You had like the Melvins that were like kind of the originals. And what was the band? Was it just called Green River? It was like named after the Green River Killer in Washington. Is that what he was? A couple of the guys from Pearl Jam, they were doing stuff even then, like the Melvins and those originals. Then Soundgarden. Soundgarden's incredible too. I would say Chris Cornell has since passed, but they're incredible. Soundgarden. Alice in Chains I love. Pearl Jam's first two albums I really liked, then I kind of lost interest in them. I'm not going to deny their talent though. And Nirvana, honestly, I always thought was overrated even back then. That's not to say they ain't good. I like plenty of Nirvana stuff. Some of Cobain's lyrics were cool and weird and shit, which I always appreciate. That's why I like Patton's lyrics, and a lot of Page Hamilton's just kind of weird. You try to figure out what it means, if it even means anything. And Nirvana does have a lot of good tunes. But, man, I was there. I was in when their first album, well, Bleach came out in 89. So I didn't know. I got into them when Nevermind came out. And then I heard Bleach, and Bleach was cool. Nevermind was cool. Incesticide I really like, but that's like B-sides and covers, but it's still, there's some really good shit on there. And then In Utero. But you saw it in real time on MTV and all that stuff, them just blowing their loads over this band. And it's like, it gets to a point where you're like, okay, dude, they're not, like, they're good. He's a great songwriter, but come on now. And I think it was a lot of the people and the radio stations and stuff like MTV really kind of blowing. It wasn't Cobain sitting there saying, I'm incredible, you know, or Dave Grohl or Kurt Novoselic saying, we're incredible, you know. He wasn't the original drummer, right? Dave Grohl, somebody else was on Bleach. But I always like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains more than them. I wouldn't say I like Pearl Jam more. The Melvins I like. I don't listen to a ton of their stuff. It's like, and there was like Mudhoney and Screaming Trees, also other bands. There was other stuff up there as well. Then like the SVPs, Stone Temple Pilots, and Smashing Pumpkins are still good. I don't listen to a lot of newer bands though anymore. Like I'll listen to other random bands, songs here and there, but I'm not like the way I listen to music now is completely different than when I used to listen to music, you know. But back when you're younger, everybody's in music stuff like, no, my shit's great. The stuff you listen to sucks. Then you get older and you start listening to everything. I'm listening to songs by Lady Gaga. I'm listening to freaking. Here, I mean, if anything, my favorite stuff to listen to now is video game soundtracks or movie soundtracks. Give me music without lyrics, it's more powerful. In my opinion, music without lyrics are more powerful than music with lyrics. Like, just the way, like, oh my god, NBA and NBC theme, it's the greatest song ever written. Like, NFL and CBS, like, that shit, I love, like, I will listen to all types of stuff now. If I like the way it sounds, I'm listening to it. I just don't care anymore. But I'm not like going to find new bands or like actively trying to find new bands and shit. I listen to my stuff on YouTube. That's it. Like I don't like back in the day you'd be hanging out in your room, you throw a CD on, and listen to it. I don't really do that anymore. I'll just be like, I want to listen to some tunes. I'll throw YouTube on. And here's my random playlist. Here's the song from Stage 4 in Castlevania, Super Castlevania 4. You know, here's an Anthrax tune, a random Anthrax song. Here's something off a Final Fantasy soundtrack. You know, it's like bouncing all over the place. You know, here's the UN Squadron Super Nintendo covers that I love. I'm like, yes, it's awesome. But yeah, I mean, 311, I actually started, I didn't like it. Even when I saw them, like, I liked them, but I wasn't super into them. I got into them a lot more over time. Another band with great riffs. You know, Black Sabbath, they just did that show for Ozzy, and this was at Birmingham in England. His hometown, his last thing. They had like a bunch of bands just playing very short sets, and then like Ozzy and Black Sabbath went on like the last two. Metallica was there. I think Alice in Chains was there. Lamb of God. Other bands were there. Pantera, Half Terror, as my friend calls it, because it's just Rex and Phil. Even though Phil wasn't the original singer. I do like Pantera. I'm not super into him. But I'm not gonna, once again, I'm not gonna deny Dimebag Darrell and rest in peace in the talent of that band. But it was funny. I think Reinventing the Steel had come out, and I swear, like the first tune sounded like Cowboys from Hell. I'm like, what are they reinventing here? I remember listening to I had a lot of soundtracks back in the day. Like Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight had a great soundtrack. Batman Forever had a pretty good soundtrack. Last Action Hero has a really good soundtrack. You know, I used to get a lot of soundtracks. Judgment Night with the blend of the bands. It was like Helmet and House of Pain. And Slayer and Ice-T. A bunch of other guys as well. You know, I like music, like I said, though my listening habits are completely different than they used to be. But that's just a bit of a music ramble, talking about some concerts I've been to. Actually, briefly, Megadeth. Megadeth is still awesome. I'm not into them like I used to. But for me personally, like, I would match up their best album. Like, if I took their 4 best albums, or we'll say 5, and match them up to Metallica's first 5. Like, if I took, let's see, for me, my 5 favorite Megadeth albums are, it's really, Rust in Peace might be the greatest metal album ever. Rust in my stomach's going nuts. Oh my god. Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings. I love all 4 of them. And Peace Sells is awesome too. Those would probably be my top 5. So far so good, so what's good? Killing My Business. Killing Is My Business is alright. And so far so good, so what's good? Good stuff. I like World Needs a Hero. And then I kind of, like, I know some of the stuff, but it was like United, Abominations, 13. They have like another, he has like another, well, I should say him at this point, right? There's like another 4 albums that I know some of the tunes, but, and they're good. But those 5 I would match up against Metallica's 5, in my opinion. Like, Cryptic Writings would get some shit, and Cryptic Writings I think is awesome. Then there was Risk, which, like Load and Reload. Even if you're not into them, you could appreciate some of the tunes. Be like, oh, there's some good stuff in here. Risk, admittedly, I think Crush 'Em is catchy. And there's a song or 2 on there, like Insomnia, that's alright. But overall, that album's not great. I think Mustaine knew it too. Because then on World Needs a Hero, the next album's completely back to normal. But yeah, that's just a music ramble here today. Kind of a long one, just talking about concerts and bands I like, the usual. Actually, I talked about this, well, I'll end on this. I talked about this as well. When I saw Megadeth, you know, bands throw out picks and shit. I remember for some reason, I guess my hand was just out like this. All of a sudden, something hits my hand. I'm like, what the? I was about to whip it. And it was like, somebody was throwing stuff. And then it was a Mustaine pick. I was like, that's awesome.